Good Saturday morning, everybody, and welcome into the Alabama pregame show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. I'm your host, Simone Eli, alongside Michael Casagrande this morning. It is Saturday, week 12 of the college football season. Austin Peay at Alabama this morning. Really, 11 o'clock kickoff. Michael Casagrande joins us live from Bryant-Denny Stadium. Michael, I'm sure it's a packed stadium already there in Tuscaloosa.
It's a fever pitch. It's hard to pull in the traffic. It was insane today. It's huge day here in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, no doubt, guys. As we know, this is always that one game FCS opponent prior to Auburn next week. It is week 12 of the season. Alabama number 8 in the polls this week. And really, Michael, leading up to this game, Nick Saban talking a lot about wanting to see Alabama football kind of recaptured, want to see the culture of what people have come to expect when it comes to Alabama football. You had a story out on this a couple of days ago. What has kind of been the mindset of this team that you've seen this week?
Yeah, I mean, from what Nick Saban said, that he's seeing an improved mindset after the LSU loss. That he's starting to see more of what they're used to in that Ole Miss game. Clearly, it wasn't a blowout, which you can't expect that every week, especially in a ranked team on the road. But he's seeing more of that mentality that they had in previous years in championship seasons that may have been missing a little bit when, to talk about anxiety and the too much allowing the external factors to become an issue. It's definitely, it's visible. You could see as a fan watching, but he said he's seeing more on the inside, that it's at least trending in a better direction. Too little too late for this season, but I think it's at this point, it's about building for the future.
No doubt. There have been some comments. You see it on social media during the games. Former players. There was a thing this week about Bo Scarborough making some comments to Coach Saban. What is it? I mean, obviously, these former players are taking pride in their program that they kind of helped build. So there is some obvious frustration when you think about Alabama not being part of a national championship contention as a former player.
Yeah, no, and it's not only just that. It's like the mentality on the field that it's not as dominant. They're not doing the kind of things that they had been doing in the past. It's the lack of turnover production. It's just the little things that make a big difference. But
Sure.
that they see, this is a team that scored like 11 defensive touchdowns in 2016, and this team has produced 7 total takeaways, worst in the nation. That's just unheard of in the past. And it's not a bad Alabama defense. It's a defense it's had its moments where it wasn't great, but it's got some first run talent out there. So it's an interesting dynamic.
Looking back at the Ole Miss game, a win on the road, what can you say? What do you think went positively for the Tide? I mean, that was a game where a lot of folks kind of thought, okay, could this be Alabama's 3rd loss in the regular season? They come out of Oxford with a win. What do you think really went well? Where was the shift when it comes to on the field play in that game, in your opinion? Yeah,
it was one of those games where it was not going in the right direction. They were trying by 10 at 2 different points in the game.
Yeah.
It was 10-0, 17-10. And, defensively, there was kind of one of those, they had a couple of those drives where Ole Miss cruised right through them. The first drive, they didn't, it was very reminiscent of last year where they cruised right down the field, 4th down stop inside the 20. That happened several times a year ago, and it happened again this time. So, but they were moving the ball. I think Ole Miss outgained them by almost 100 yards overall.
Yeah.
But Alabama, they made the stops when they had to. I think that the biggest thing was like on defense, like in those losses, they had opportunities to make the one stop they needed and didn't get it.
Sure.
And they made that stop. It came right down to a throw into the end zone, but they made the stop that they had to make this time.
No doubt about that. If you're just tuning in, it's the Alabama pregame show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. Mike Casagrande joining us live from Bryant-Denny Stadium as we are now about 90 minutes away from kickoff. Austin Peay at Alabama. One of those games where, Nick Saban wants to see probably, he won't talk about it very much, but some guys, some younger guys, the up-and-comer guys get some reps later in the game. That and what else do you expect Nick Saban hoping to see in this game, the one final tune-up before the Iron Bowl and then whatever the bowl season looks like?
Yeah, I mean, avoiding injuries.
Sure.
It's one of those games where it's that discussion of how far, how much do you play the starters when it's clearly not going to be needed. So I think you're going to see a very full participation sheet. You're going to see a lot of the guys, in any way, in a sense, it's like it's more fun or it's more interesting for someone who knows the roster well, who follows recruiting, because you're going to see a lot of the guys, the recruits
Sure.
from a year ago who haven't seen as much playing time. And when they have the rule that you can play in 4 games without losing a red shirt, that they can experiment in games like this. So you're going to see a whole lot of people putting up numbers. How much of it, it's not the most exotic of playbooks. They're not going to be rolling out crazy stuff, but you're going to be able to see a little bit of what the future is expected to be. And, the future starts now with no playoffs, really.
Sure. Michael, I know players aren't really supposed to look ahead. We can certainly look ahead when you look at the Iron Bowl. And just this game is a big game every single year. But this year it's just particularly interesting knowing that there isn't some huge SEC ramification in the West on this game. But obviously Auburn is riding this high momentum situation behind Carnell Williams. I just want your take, since I'm not going to have you for the post-game show. When you look at this Iron Bowl game, what makes it just an interesting dynamic for you as someone who's covered this game for as long as you have?
It's interesting because it's the first time I've covered a game without actual stakes. It's the first time since 2007 that one of the teams wasn't have an opportunity for a national title. So it's kind of like the Egg Bowl, the Iron Bowl this week. Who knows what's going to happen? Is there going to be shenanigans on the field? Are there going to be fights? Are they going to be doing what Ole Miss players have done a few times with the touchdown celebrations? But it's going to be interesting. I guess it's going to be interesting because it's not going to be interesting because they don't have the same stakes, and it's not going to be the same fight for survival. So
sure.
It's going to be interesting to see. Auburn has a pretty big game today, so let's not forget about that. I don't think they can overlook anybody.
Sure.
Especially today.
No doubt.
For whatever reason.
Well, being a WKU grad, I know that you're particularly interested in that game.
That's right. I am.
You are.
That's right.
Around the SEC, Ole Miss at Arkansas tonight, Tennessee at South Carolina, Georgia at Kentucky, Florida at Vanderbilt. A couple of actual SEC matchups today, but this one in Tuscaloosa. It's one of those games where, it's an early kickoff, could be a slow start. It's kind of has the makings for all the things that Nick Saban likes to harp on, at least in postgame, Michael. Yeah,
no, it's kind of thing where you almost think he'll be even more tuned in for this one because he's made such a point all week about, he said it several times, where if someone is coming to watch practice this week, he doesn't want them to know who they're playing. They want them, he would want an outsider to think that they're practicing just as hard for this game as Auburn, whatever, bigger games. So if they do start out slow today, I can see him being especially worked up over it because it's been his coaching point. It's been what he's driven home all week. And if they don't respond to that, then I'm sure you'll see one of those sideline moments like he had at Ole Miss after the 4th and 1 snafu. No doubt. Guys, we will see. Mike Casagrande, thank you so much for all of the pregame talk. Guys, week 12 of the season, Austin Peay at Alabama today. Kickoff set for 11, about 90 minutes away. Matt Casagrande will have all of your coverage during the game and after. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Alabama pregame show brought to you by Medical Properties Trust. I'm Simone Eli. Mike Casagrande. Have a good day.
Medical Properties Trust, at the very heart of healthcare.